Hartman's Community Centre, Milton, Ontario, Canada. This question dwelled on Ida's mind as she and Maigret flew in over the Texas coast to the ceremonial cavern. Once inside, Ida rushed off to practice on her serpent dragon routine in one of the unused side chambers. Imagine her surprise when she found her 5 sisters there as well, all writhing and coiling and eager to be one of the 6 dragon dancers required for the dance. Being superior dragonesses, the 6 sisters quickly taught one another their moves and discovered that individually their dancing was good, but as a team they were unbeatable. In the meantime, Maigret had set out down one of the tunnels to the ossuary. Here, in alcoves clawed into the walls, lay dragon skeletons and skulls and other skeletons of creatures not of dragon kind, but still honored by the 6 tribes. If one were to look closely at the dear departed, one would notice that there were a lot more skulls than other body parts. Although dragons honor their dead, they are still ravenous, practical beasts. The reason no dead dragons have been found is because other dragons eat the body, bone, guts, tissue, and everything else. All they leave is the head, and this much lighter burden is carried to the nearest ossuary. Ate the big, bulky, and hard-to-transport dragon body and honor the skull. Nobody said dragons were wimps. Around this time, the elder dragons who would decide which dragons would take part in the serpent dragon dance came upon Ida and her sisters cavorting about the side chamber. To make a long story short, it was agreed that the 6 dragonesses would perform the ceremony. Ida was overjoyed. It was going to be her big day. Dragonkind would worship the ground she ran on. By 1993, the fortunes of the serpent tribe were at the lowest point they'd been for thousands of years. Although the tribe itself traced its beginnings to an event which had occurred tens of millions of years ago, they had definitely not advanced in social standing. Although the serpent dragon dance was supposedly being held in their honor, the reality was far different. In one cavern was held pens of mooing, buying, and oinking cattle, sheep, and pigs, whilst in the other side were pens holding roaring, hissing serpents. Dragons would wander around herding stray serpents back to the pens, whilst at the royal feeding trough the nominal head of the serpent clan was leashed and kept sticking his smelly snout in the middle of a communication between the leaders of 2 tribes and mindlessly roaring away. As much as the 2 dragonesses would have loved to sink their jagged teeth into his throat, they had to settle for savage hisses and nips in order to shut him up. Basically, nobody wanted these stupid creatures crushing through their party, so it was much easier to lead them on leashes or pin them up. The serpent dragon dance itself was a complex affair, and many dragons seriously doubted whether it could be pulled off. It required 6 concentric circles of serpents to coil around the center point, with each band traveling in the opposite direction to its adjacent band of slithering serpents. Thus, the serpents traveling in the inner circle traveled counterclockwise, the next circle traveled clockwise, and the third circle traveled clockwise, etc. The serpents had to move to a rhythm, slide, 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 and then they would have to rear their heads off the ground, unsheath their fangs, and spit venom in front of them. At this point, they lowered their heads to the ground again and slid along to that rhythm. After 6 revolutions around the circle, they coiled over, and convulsed their bodies before straightening out again and resuming the dance. It was very primal, and no doubt many a dragon and dragoness got hot under the scales just thinking about it.